Okay, welcome everybody back to Political Sociology. Today we're discussing Osborne and Gabler, Chapter 3, Competitive Government. Yay. Okay, excellent. Now, who read Chapter 3? Okay, if you read it, then you try to write at least 3 sentences about it. Maybe that should be easier. Try to write at least 1 sentence, okay? So I want at least 1 sentence. Who needs paper? Okay, if you need paper, just take it from here. Now, so what is the old model? The opposite of competition is what? Right, monopoly, right? Right. It was a great game. Okay. Well, and what was the purpose of the game Monopoly? But what is your goal? Right. You want to destroy the other competitors. Okay? So you can raise prices as much as you want. Okay? Now, so Osborne and Gabler is not so much interested in that monopoly game, but he's really interested in like efficiency and effectiveness. Okay? And so he's interested in competition among the different sectors: public, private, nonprofit. Okay. Let's read the first paragraph together. Okay? Competition is? Read it.
Competition is the most important element for improving the quality and cost effectiveness of government services. It does not necessarily mean that a service will be turned over to the private sector. It means that no one organization has monopoly in providing service. In a monopoly, entrenched bureaucracy and the politically powerful resist innovation. When service providers are required to compete, they keep their costs down, respond quickly to changing demands, and strive to satisfy customers. Competition can actually boost morale among workers because they receive public recognition when they are successful.
Right, okay. And there's different varieties of competition, right? And then what is, and the first one is what? The first type of competition is, what is the first type of competition? Public versus?
Private.
Right, public versus private, okay? And then what was the example in the book? Right, the garbage collection, right? Between the private garbage collectors and the city garbage collector. And the city, what city was this? This was in Phoenix. Yeah, Phoenix, Arizona. Okay? And because of private competition, it made the public provider stronger. Okay? And then you can, so there's public versus private, private versus private, public versus public, and also public versus nonprofit. Okay? And so think of examples from the book, and also think of examples from like Korea or Japan or China, right? So in education, public versus private would be like what? Public schools versus what? Private? Private hagwon, right? Because hagwons are private, they're for-profit, mega study. Okay? What would be an example? Well, private versus private would be hagwons competing against other hagwons, right? Public versus public would be charter schools, okay? A regular public school competing against a charter public school, because a charter public school, they get money from the government. It's considered public education. And then also there's public versus, there's also public versus nonprofits, okay? So charter schools are kind of a hybrid combination of public and nonprofit, okay? And so, and they give a lot of examples in the book, right? How, like in garbage collection, public, monopoly, $49 a ton, versus when you have private competition, it's only $17, okay? So monopoly raises prices almost 3 times more, okay? Okay, and then, they give examples of public choice, where instead of just going to one public school, you can go to any public school you want in the city. And again, competition raises schools' performance. Okay? On the other hand, like, the authors also talk about how many public employee unions that don't like the competition. Okay, and they often have a lot of power because they vote twice as much as the general public. Okay, so public workers. Now, if you want to do, like private competition, you want to get private contractors, you have to do it right. Okay, and he talked about you need 4 conditions. Okay, and so the 4 conditions means what? 1, that bidding has to be truly competitive. You cannot just favor your cousin. Okay, that competition is based on hard information, that you carefully monitor the contracts, and you need a non-political body to monitor how they're doing. Okay, but the bottom line is that most public officials, they favor contracting. It saves them a lot of money. Okay, there's a couple of good examples from the from current events news. One example is that these days California, Oregon, Tennessee, Texas, and other states, they are privatizing libraries, public libraries. So instead of having government workers run the libraries, they give it to private companies or nonprofits. And they realize that when they do so, they can save a lot of money. Okay, so instead of running it for like $5.1 million, they can run it. They can get a contractor to run it for just 3.8. Okay, so that's almost like 40% off. And so so by giving it to private contractors, they can save a lot of money, and they can use that money to buy better computers, more books. Now, what is a big reason why private contractors might be cheaper than public workers? Can anybody imagine? So for example, why would 방과후 teachers be cheaper than public school teachers in the long run? Where? What do public school teachers have, regular teachers have, that 방과후, these contract teachers do not have? They get what?
Fixed salary.
Well, not just fixed salary, but they have lifetime permanent pension. Okay? And teachers, when do they retire? Usually what?
60.
Yeah, 60, right? And how long do they live?
I mean, after retirement?
Yeah.
20 years old.
Yeah, 20 years, right? Maybe in the old days, workers, they just live to like 70, right? And so in the old days, you can't give them lifetime pension because they only live for like 5 or 10 years longer. But these days, people live longer and longer. And we especially have a problem with police officers, because police officers and also U.S. Army, you can retire after 20 years. So you have police officers and Army soldiers who retire when they're like 40 or 45. And if you're 40 or 45, how many more years can you live?
40.
Yeah, maybe another 40 years. Do you see? So you have to, and then because some of the police unions are very powerful, they said, I want 70 or 80% of my salary every year as a pension. So they might be so police officers might be getting like $50,000 every year for the next 40 years. And you understand? So this is a tremendous cost, and this is one reason why cities like Detroit went bankrupt. And then the cities are realizing that if we just give it to a private contractor, then we don't have to worry about pension, because private companies, do they give full pension? How about in Korea or Japan? So like Toyota or Samsung or LG, do they give you pension or no pension?
Well, I'm not really sure, but it depends on what kind of person the workers are in.
Okay.
When they work in a company, if those kind of people retired, or it's kind of like really high people in the company, then they might have some pensions.
Okay, so Kota is saying that maybe high people will get pensions. Okay, but for most workers, it's like middle and low, and I think including like executives too. These days, private companies, they don't get pension. They get something called like a 401k. Okay. For example, I have a friend who's a middle manager at LG, and then he already put in his 20 years. Well, maybe like next year or so, it'll be about 20 years. He said he can retire. I said, ooh, that's great. Are you going to get pension? He said, no. Okay. You get a flat, I think they just give you a flat lump payment, like $100,000. Okay? And then, because it's a flat payment, one time, the company can budget. But if they have to give you like a permanent pension, then they don't know how much they have to pay you. Okay? So companies much prefer like either one-time payment, or while you're in the company, they put money into like a retirement plan for stocks. Okay? So like when I worked at a private university in America, they took out 5% of my salary to put in my retirement account, stocks, and then the university pays 5%. Okay? Korea still doesn't have that for teachers or professors. We're all promised pension. I hope I get it. It was a big promise to me. They said, just teach English class for 20 years, we'll give you a lifelong pension. I said, I hope this is a promise you keep. They broke a lot of other promises. Okay? Alright. So, anyway, so that's one big issue in terms of pensions. Another big issue is, so Osborne and Gable really likes the idea of competition among like different organizations, but he doesn't necessarily like competition among individuals. Okay? And so a big controversy is what we call merit pay. Have you heard of merit pay? What does merit mean? Merit means good or bad. Merit means what? Good. Good, right? And so the idea is that don't fall asleep. Alright. I'm not going to give you merit pay. Alright. You get a demerit for sleeping. Okay? So, okay. Sure. So merit pay is like if a teacher is doing a really good job, students are learning a lot, and you can measure that by what we call value-added testing. We're going to discuss that next week. So let's see what the student was at the beginning of the class and at the end of the class. Let's see how much the student learned. Okay? If the student learns a lot, that's because of the teacher, then you get more money. Does that sound like a good idea or bad idea? Okay, let's discuss the pros and cons. So what's the pro? Why is that a good idea? Okay, so students have to, right, so teachers have to work hard. Okay, so they should be rewarded. Okay? What's the con? This is usually opposed by teachers' unions. Why?
They don't have stable job.
Yeah, well, for one thing, they want stable salary. In teachers' unions, salary is mostly determined by seniority. So, the longer you work there, the more money you get. Okay? So that sounds good for unions because, long-term workers are the strongest union members, right? New workers are not as active. But is that good for children? Do you think older teachers are better than younger teachers? No. Sometimes, but often not, right? So the con is maybe it's kind of unstable, and also teachers will become jealous. Instead of respecting their seniors, respecting their hube, they might disrespect. Your teaching sucks. I am much better. Look at all this money that I'm getting, right? Whereas in the old model, junior teachers always respect senior teachers. Senior teachers get the most respect, the most money. Do you understand? So these are the pros and cons. Looking at the pros and cons, do you think merit pay is a good idea or a bad idea? Okay, let's go over new people. Do you understand what merit pay is? Okay, is that I have to make sure that audience can see me. Does Mary Kay sound like a... Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Yay. What's your name? Okay, Shota. Okay, tell me, Shota. Is Mary Kay a good idea or a bad idea? Why? Why is that a good idea? You think it make the teacher work harder? You think the students will learn more? Okay, alright. So Shota says you make the teachers work harder, maybe the students will learn more. Okay? Okay. How about this row? Do you think that Mary Kay is a good idea or a bad idea? Giving more money to better teachers. What do you guys think? Come on, giving ideas or comments. Good idea, bad idea. Do you like the idea? It's a good idea or bad idea? Okay, why is it a bad idea? Okay, so you're saying they need like stable salary? So if he teaches it well, then students should get higher scores, right? And so the teacher will get more money. Isn't that a good thing? Okay. Maybe one big con is that if you get more money for higher student test scores, then some teachers might what? They might cheat. Do you see? They might give answers to students to raise their scores. That's why, again, you have to carefully monitor, the contractors, including the teachers. You see, you have to carefully monitor them to make sure that, because they're competing with each other, right? Competing with other teachers for this money, you have to carefully monitor them to make sure they're not cheating. And you need a neutral, non-political body to monitor all the teachers. We had big scandals in cities like Atlanta because you have teachers and also principals who would cheat. They change all the student test scores so they can get high grades and they can get more money. Okay? But if you do it right, then it works. Okay? Alright. Okay, so those are some controversies. Okay, now another thing we had two papers. Another thing is that, again, before we go to the papers, I wanted to, where's Mr. Che? He's waking up. Okay. Mr. Che was talking about education reform in Korea, okay, to compete with the Hagwons. So before, the public schools had no competition because, especially during the 1980s, when you had military dictator Chun Doo-hwan, he outlawed tutoring, he outlawed Hagwons. Okay, so he had no tutors, no Hagwons, because he wanted the system to be equal and fair. But in the 1990s, people said what? People said we want more. Yeah, we want more freedom. We want more choice. If I want to hire a tutor for my children, I want to. If I want to send them to Hagwon, that's my choice. Okay? So since the 1990s, you had this explosion in tutoring and Hagwons. Okay? But Mr. Che said, well, it makes it too stressful, and a lot of public schools cannot compete with Hagwons. The students, they just pay attention to Hagwons, and they just sleep during class at public school. Okay? And so his question is, what can we do to make public schools better? Okay? Now, according to Osborne and Gabler, competition usually makes you better, right? Do you think competition makes public schools better or not really? Because
Not really, because the
Mhm.
one who want to go to public school
Right.
already be made by competitive.
Okay.
Already they have to what systems work.
Okay, so system's not working right.
There is competitive already.
Okay. Well, maybe one argument you can make is that right now public school teachers and principals, they don't feel any competition. We're talking about your paper. Hurry up. Yeah.
After
Well, because you're saying that right now, like the public schools are getting all this competition from hagwons, right?
yes.
Right. So they're winning the competition for students' attention and time. Okay. So Ms. Cho, you went to hagwon, right? And then you spent more energy at hagwon or at school? 야, 어디 제일 많이 신경 썼어? 집중했어? 학원에 아니면 학교에? Oh, school? Okay, good for you. But Mr. Chess saying that many students except Ms. Cho, they spend their energies, they pay more attention to the hagwon. Okay? And then when they go to public school, they just slept. Did anybody do that? You're nodding. You slept at school? Okay. But the theory of competition means that should make the public schools more competitive, work harder, right? Are they doing that? Are they working harder? Maybe a little bit. I see them doing things like 방과후, okay, and 자유학기. Yeah. So maybe they're doing certain things to make the schools more attractive, but overall they're not doing that much. And maybe one reason is that they're not truly competing because you need incentive. In a truly competitive system, if you lose your customers, you lose money. But are public schools losing their students? No, because they still have a monopoly. If you really allow the public school students to just exit the public school, and that means that the school will get less and less money, then they really have to work. Then they really have to change and work harder. They have to act like the schools in New York or Minnesota. You understand? But right now, schools, teachers, they don't really have any incentive to change. Okay? And even when they have 방과후, I told you my cheje's a 방과후, she says that I don't really get any support from the regular teachers. They see me not as somebody who makes the public school more attractive to students, but just somebody who takes money away from the regular teachers. Do you understand?
Wow.
Right. So many regular teachers, they just want to get rid of the 방과후.
In fact, my father designed the China.
Oh, really?
Yes, so I heard a lot of things.
Do you think this is a good idea? 자유학기? 자유학기 means what?
Free semester.
Right, free semester. Okay. Right, 자유학기. No exams for one semester. Does everybody like that idea?
Right now, people are interested, but we are not sure because we didn't actually start it.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of parents think we still have students, so what's the difference?
Right. Okay. Because hagwons, do they test a lot?
Yes.
Right. And do students and parents think that's a good idea?
Yes, because how once they are so few parents' money, so
Okay. Right.
it's also
If you didn't have tests for a whole semester, would that make you work? Would that make you a better student or worse student?
worse.
Worse?
This is really important for grading their major in their ability.
Okay.
The key point of China is that free semester is not we don't have. It is more like students experience something. And they do have exam, but it is not different. It's more like
What? They dance? What do they do?
they actually dance or make films.
Okay.
That kind of thing. It's like Japan's
Crowd activity.
sort of like a portfolio,
Yes.
and you do that test at the end of the year or at the end of the semester.
End of the semester.
Okay, let's see how that works. Because the purpose of good testing is to give feedback to students, right? To see if you're working, to see if you're learning. Okay, that's why I do like this, and then I can know like who's reading, who's not reading. So you read, and then you read and thought about it. So you wrote something, and then the rest of you didn't do it. Okay, that means like either you didn't read, or you didn't like learn enough to write 3 sentences. Okay, so that means I'm a little worried about you. Okay, but if I didn't have this weekly summary, then I wouldn't know if you read or not read. Okay, and the same thing with the essays, right? We have essays every 2 weeks. I think that's fair, right? So it gives you some CHYU, but at least every 2 weeks I want to see how much you learn, how much you can analyze, how much you can link. Okay, so that's due on Friday.
So I just need to praise.
That's fine. And then you have to tell me like, it's like this CHYU, like that's this CHYU haki, right? Is that more bottom up or top down? Do you think?
It's
Who's-
more like bottom up.
Okay. And then who's asking for it? Who's demanding it?
So if the goal of CHYU program is like all the students are just studying course.
Right.
Nowadays they are studying for student.
Mm-hmm.
And the result is that everyone lost their work. Every university students, they don't know what to do.
Right.
They are just like handcuffs.
Okay.
So they stick to their parents and don't know what to do, don't know what they really want. So the teachers they're worried, and parents they worried that what our children going to do in the future. So what the CHYU Haki program is really want from students is that they find their like something like dream goal of their life.
That sounds great, but we're gonna discuss this next week.
Yes.
You need to find a way to measure that.
Oh,
If students are developing their dreams and goals and interests, right?
so to be more specifically, the free semester program they combine the subjects like Korean and science. You combine some programs and subjects to make something new. So with it's like arts, and you combine arts and engineering. So you make something very
Like
some
something-
tool looks really
something
yeah,
creative
something-
and innovative.
yes.
Right. So I think that's a really interesting case study experiment. But from using our text, you have to ask how are you gonna measure this?
I'm not
And
sure.
and two, do students have a choice? Okay, how do you measure if the teachers are doing it? If the teachers are teaching it well or not well? Because right now we don't really have a feedback system, right? At the end of the year, do you have evaluation for your teachers?
In fact, the parents are monitoring the program every
Okay.
day. So
Right. But the question is, can the students write teacher evaluation?
I see.
You see?
Yes.
Because if the teachers do not get any evaluation, then they may not get any incentive to teach this class well. That for them it might just be like, I'm just gonna have a vacation for that's just less work for me.
Right now, students are kind of satisfied with this program, so I should look for more.
So, but the question is, how do you know that they're satisfied?
According to their interview.
Okay.
I don't know.
Sure. Maybe some selective interviews.
Yeah.
Okay. Because also don't forget, like when we were the swamp nurse, oftentimes like
this program is now practicing. It's the phase of practicing, and from 2016, it's the time when it's really going to start off. So
Like expand. So
yes.
right now it's kind of a small pilot program, right?
Yes, pilot program.
That's
so.
fine. So you have to be careful because usually the pilot programs have good results, but when you expand it, you get bad results. Because pilot program, that's when you have the most enthusiasm and energy.
Yeah,
Okay.
put more resources.
Yes, put more resources. And so, like the swap meetings, they expanded it very slowly. I think the problem with like the Korean system is people have this idea they think is good, and then they just expand it everywhere at once instead of like expanding it slowly. Okay, because there's always problems. So you always have to fix, adapt. Okay, trial and error.
In fact, my father designed this program, but right now he doesn't really touching or handling this program because he handled this program, I mean the commanding authority to other teachers. So right now he's kind of blaming other teachers for they are really not really know about this what this program is. So.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe you can compare that with a swamp nurse, because the founder of the swamp nurse the nurse family program, he's still in charge, and he still takes responsibility because that's his vision. Okay. We had the same problem with the NEET test, the National English Ability Test, because you have one group that designed it, and then you have another group that implements
take
it.
charge of.
Right, and then like they don't, and so they don't really understand each other. And so, the second group did not really implement it well, and so the Park Geun-hye administration just rejected it.
Oh.
Okay. And so you have to think about like what is a better system for introducing and implementing innovation in Korea. Okay. And then what are some of the problems in the Korean context? And then one of the problems might be that in Korean context it tends to be very top down, and there's also very little competition because public schools are still like a monopoly. If you really allow students to choose, even public school choice, right? If you allow students to choose between different public schools, and the public schools that are not popular have to close down, then you can really, motivate schools to work hard. Okay. So one reason why you have competition is because students know the best. You know what they're learning well, the teachers are teaching good, and so by just giving students choice, like a free market, then sometimes you don't need a state. Students, you can just look at which schools the students are going to. Okay? But then if you have a monopoly, then changes, then you can do whatever, you can just be top down, and you don't know if the students like it or not, because they still have to go to the same school. So you have to think of a way to because big system, some schools will do a great, 자유 학기, other classrooms will be terrible. Okay? So you need to think of what is a mechanism to show which classrooms are doing good, which classrooms are doing bad. Either you need some kind of testing and feedback or student evaluation, or you have to allow students to choose, which classrooms or which schools they want to go to. Okay? Right. Because I know my kids go to 초등학교, they have no choice, no 선택, which teacher they can go to. No, but it's still, that's what elementary school is foundational. That's where you learn the most important skills. And then if you look at chapter 3, Alpha and Gabler, that's where they started, like elementary and junior high schools. Okay. And then because if you don't learn a lot in elementary school, then you're not gonna learn in middle school or high school, right? so it's very important to select the right teachers and the right school. So in America, students have more choice. And so, well, a lot of it depends on where you live, okay? So a lot of Korean parents, they try to send their kids to the best elementary school. And sometimes they lie about their address so they can send their kids there. About 10% of the Korean kids, their parents lied about their address. Right? But but the point is that in America you can choose. Okay? Alright. Okay. So now another thing is Japan. Yay. Okay. And then Kota had a very interesting example because let me read this for you, okay? One thing that I've experienced about monopoly is an international volunteer market. I have been working at company. Oh, actually, I left that. You wrote it, so I have been working at company.
Right. I've been working at the company which aims to promote mutual understandings between youth Japanese and Korean students through academic conferences and cultural exchange programs. And I'm in charge of international coordinator and holding academic conference. One day, I got tasked to be an official member International Volunteer Network to expand our activities to the world. However, our organization was not able to be approved by them because other Korean organizations which already became a part of the international network strictly protested to let us join to protect their own markets. This case can introduce that monopoly even exists in international volunteer market that should be based on the sorry, I'm not really sure how to do this. Philanthropic idea, and it will continue to reject new entry organizations which have more creative ideas that could make market more competitive.
Stop. Okay. Do you understand?
Yes.
So right now Kota works for like a non-profit, or it's a private company, right?
Private company.
Right.
It kind of connected to the non-profit sector.
Right. So basically, he wants to host like conferences to kind of bring like Korean students and Japanese students, right? Culture exchange, academic conferences. But to do so, you need like kind of like government approval, right?
Yeah.
Government permission, and then and so these like other nonprofit organizations, they kind of have monopoly is one. Just two or three, like a few means oligopoly. So like a few companies dominate. Okay, so in this case, a few nonprofit organizations dominate the conferences between Koreans and Japanese, and they don't want new competitors coming in. Why?
Because their customer will be able to take from their market.
Yeah, that means they might get less students. Okay, especially if yours is better. Okay. So again, so this is an interesting dynamic. It doesn't matter what sector you are, public, private, or nonprofit. You just don't like competition. Okay. What's a very famous example of this? Companies trying to prevent other companies from entering the market right now. Think of Samsung versus who? Apple. Right. It's a famous example, right? So who started smartphones?
Apple.
Well, actually it was actually Palm, right, and also BlackBerry. BlackBerry, right? But
BlackBerry is not so good.
yeah, but at least they're nice. They didn't prevent Apple from entering the market. Okay, Apple was the first touch smartphone. Oh, the first really popular touch smartphone. There were others, but very not so good. So, but Apple brought it all together. It made it really fun. Okay. And then after Apple, you had all these other companies like Samsung. Okay. And then so Apple said, "You just copied us." Do you think that's true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe part. Okay. Maybe the idea, but Apple said the same thing. They sued Microsoft. They said, Windows. They said Windows copied Apple. So they sued Microsoft, but Apple lost. That's why most people have Windows today. Okay? And then, but that was like, 20, 30 years ago, right? But now, like, people don't care about computers. Now they want smartphones. And so Apple again sued Samsung, saying you can't copy me. And so they want like $1 or $2 billion. That means like if a phone is like $100, like $40 have to go to Apple. Do you see? So again, like, do you support Apple or Samsung?
I don't support people.
Either.
Either.
But if Apple wins, that means that Samsung cannot, do you understand?
Yes.
Right.
Not for some.
At least the current version. They have to produce like a new version. Okay? It's still on trial. Right. But then Samsung is saying, and also they're supported by Google, that a lot of these ideas, you cannot just patent them. Okay? Things like like for example, like Apple sues Samsung because on email there's a phone number. If you click on that, you can dial the person, right? Apple said that was our idea. Samsung cannot copy that. If Samsung cannot do that, then people will say like, I don't want a Samsung phone, I just want an Apple phone. Because it's actually very convenient, right? You all done that before, right? But Samsung and Google are saying, but that's such a basic idea. You cannot patent that. Because if you do, you're going to hold back competition, you're going to hold back progress. Okay? And again, like, because of competition, phones are a lot cheaper. Because Apple phones are expensive. And also Apple phones are expensive and there's also less choice. There's like so small, right? Whereas like Samsung phones are cheaper and you can get them in any size. Do you see? So that's why personally I like Samsung phones. And then as soon as I get more money, I'm gonna get me that big Samsung phone. The phablet. Yeah. Ooh, so good, huh? But if Samsung loses a market competition, if Samsung loses a trial, then all the good stuff will be gone. It's like, oh no! Then I probably have to get it underground. Psst, psst. Okay. Yes. Okay. So, what's your situation now?
Right.
You're stuck?
We are still resisting to let us go into the international network, which might be difficult.
That's very interesting because from American perspective, I didn't even know you needed government permission to hold a conference.
It's conference is fine actually, but
Okay.
problem is kind of getting into international network.
And it's controlled by, and you need government permission?
It's kind of UNICEF.
Oh, so you need Korean government permission or UN permission?
It's now from the Korean central government, but we need the permission from the UNICEF Korean branch.
Oh, the UNICEF Korean branch. Oh, okay. And they're captured by these other nonprofits?
I think so.
Okay. Oh, that's too bad. Okay. So you need so government agencies need to like promote more free competition.
Yeah.
So in America, we had this like ethos of free competition. So, like for example, like Samsung sued Apple saying blah blah blah, and then one of the American lawyers said, well, if Samsung wins, there'll be less competition. So there's a strong like philosophical belief that more competition is better. Okay. So let's hope Samsung wins. Let's hope you win. Okay. Go Google and Samsung. Okay. Okay. One final thing I wanted to talk about was that okay, so again, before we go on, tell me for those who didn't talk a lot, tell me one interesting comment that you had or one interesting idea that you had about competition. Do you guys have anything to share? Did you learn anything from the readings? Okay. Or just tell me on Friday. Friday. Okay? Alright. So think about it, tell me on Friday. Now, right now I'm doing some interesting research on media in Korea, okay? And how media talks about migrants and minorities, okay? Because in the old days, how did people get their news? Yes.
How many? How old?
10 years ago. Or like Undapara, 1990, yeah. Think of Undapara days. Right. 1993.
From the newspaper.
Yeah, newspaper and television. Right. And were there a lot of newspapers and television stations? No. Right. There were just how many big newspapers do you have in Korea? You have 조선일보, 중앙, 동아. Is Hangul considered a big paper or not really? It's middle size. Well, when you go to like 편의점, you can always buy 조선일보, 동아일보, 중앙일보, 한겨레.
Yes.
Oh, you can buy 한겨레 at any 편의점?
Yes.
Or no?
Because the liberals they read 한겨레 or 한겨레 and so
And
you can find 한겨레 and 경향.
oh, and Hangul is the biggest liberal paper.
Not the biggest. The three real.
What are the three? 조선, 중앙, 동아.
They are the biggest.
Okay.
And perhaps among the rivers, 경향.
Biggest. Okay, and the Hangul is number 2.
한겨레 was the number 1, but they were too poor.
Oh, so they lost to the competition. So they lost to the anti-competition and anti-North Korea, Hangul.
They went too far.
They went too far.
Yeah. When Kim Jong-un died, they
he said that when Kim Jong-un died, Hangul mourned for him. So they were like crying. They had a flag ribbon on the newspaper.
and kind of that.
Okay.
Hangul is basically supporting for the North Korea. The same way North Korean and South Korean people kind of brother.
They have some same people in North Korea. That's for sure. And what I'm saying is that they love North Korea better than South.
That's kind of Asaki the mind.
Yes.
They were Korean, China, and sometimes North Korea, and they kind of really against
Asahi?
Asaki the mind.
Oh, then we should not drink Asahi beer anymore. Okay. Is it the same company as the beer?
I think it's not the same company. Asaki mass media and Asaki beverages company. I think
So different company. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, so the point is that Undapara, you just had big newspapers, right? And TV. And TV stations, they just repeat what the newspapers say, right? Basically. But today, you have more competition from who? Yeah, from internet, right? And then I'm wondering if the competition is a good thing or a bad thing. Okay? And then, because one thing, let me tell you a story, okay? We were talking about like social issues at wedding, okay? And they were saying like a big social issue is for Korean ajumma is babysitters. You might be an ajumma someday, right? Okay? Maybe. Not now, but
Yes.
And then, babysitters are very important for ajummas because why? Yeah, busy doing what? Talking, but also many of them work. They need to work. They need to make money. They think that like 남편만 하면 it's not enough. 부족해. Because like 남편 eBay user, right? or for different reasons, he's not making enough money.
Yeah, there's always.
Right. Okay. So they need to work. They need to get babysitter, but Korean babysitters are so expensive. Okay. So I asked them, well, how about like 조선족 sitter? Okay? And then all the girls said, no, you cannot get 조선족 babysitter. Why not? Did you hear? 왜 안? Have you heard about 조선족 babysitter? What did you hear about them? Good or bad? Why bad? 왜 나빠? Yeah, Mr. Che wants to know why am I such a bad babysitter? What are the negative things that you heard? What kind of crime? You can tell me. What kind of crime? Like stealing money or? Okay. Anyway, what the student told me at Wede was not stealing money, but stealing the baby. Or stealing the baby's organ. Kidney. You understand? And then, well, I thought it was a joke, but she said, no, it's true. I heard about it. Right. I don't know, you're better. Well, from different people, right? And then I'm working with this grad student from Albany, and she said, I heard the same story from my mom through Kakao Talk. You know, she kakao me the story about these 조선족, 조선족 babysitters who are kidnapping the baby or just taking their organs. Okay?
Babies
Or just children's organs. Or maybe not. Actually, you might still be able to use it. But the point is that they're taking people's organs, right? And then I was thinking, like, you never heard this in the mainstream media, right? You never heard of this at 조선일보, of like 조선족 아줌마 stealing a baby, or stealing, or let's say they have a 초등학교 or 중학교 학생 at home, and when they're sleeping, oh no, something's where's my kidney? Okay. But then there's all these stories. Do you understand?
Yes.
And then I'm like, where are these stories coming from? And yes, Kakao Talk and internet, right? It's not true. I don't think there's if a Chinese, like if a 조선족 아줌마 actually kidnapped the baby, there would be front page news. Okay? If they took the kid's kidney, that'd be like huge news. It'd be international news. Okay? And that has never been reported officially in Korea. But there's all these like stories on the internet. We call them urban legend. You know what an urban legend is? Right. Like a myth, right? I remember hearing about this urban legend first like in 1994 in the Para. I was like using internet and I got this story like, don't go to this bar. I went to this bar, met this beautiful woman, and then when I woke up, I was in a bathtub full of ice. Oh. And then I got this note saying, call 911. Because why? Shit. Right, your kidney's gone. So you have to go to the hospital right away.
I heard another myth.
Yeah?
It's like you met a girl,
Uh-huh.
nice sleeping,
Okay.
and when you wake up and went to the bathroom, the mirror is written like welcome to AIDS.
Welcome to what?
AIDS.
Oh, welcome to AIDS.
That's kind of myth. Or there's another myth.
Where did you hear this myth from? Online or from Kakao? Or from your friends?
And
Which online?
Wikipedia.
Oh,
The
Wikipedia.
plural myth.
Okay.
So another myth is that if you meet someone like 조선족, then your kidneys organs are gone and your body corpse will be hidden in drum
Oh,
and concrete.
okay.
Pouring on it and go to see them.
Oh,
I've seen where some of even private organizations which is protesting where I think 조선족 to get like over something like that. India 시청 any young
there's a group in Shincheon that is anti-Joseonjo.
간단히 신점, 영동 and 시점.
Oh, Shincheon. Oh, and they're anti-Joseonjo.
I'm not sure because I can't read it. Chinese recognize that.
Oh, okay.
I think, but pictures. I think just show the pictures, right?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of pictures kind of like kind of organ and maybe because since it is written in Chinese, right? It's somehow related to some chosen pictures.
But if they're anti-Chinese, what would they write in Chinese? That's so strange. Anyway, but the point is that, there was in the old days, in the Para, 1993, you had an oligopoly, almost a monopoly for media, right, in terms of getting information. But today, instead of monopoly, you have what? You have many more choices. Okay, you can get too many, right? You can get information from everywhere. Kakao. Where do you get the information about Joseonjo? From Wikipedia or from Irbe? Did you really go to Irbe and hear the story?
Yeah, for research, I wrote the article about Uber.
Okay.
During that, I was using Uber,
Mm-hmm.
and I tried to find, but there's no real information. It's more like curse.
Okay.
So I look for Wikipedia.
Okay.
There's some kind of Wikipedias. Wikipedia Korea, NJ-HYU Wiki.
Mm-hmm.
I looked for them, and it was also good for me.
Okay. Anyway, but the question is, do most of you believe in the myth that Joseonjo people are criminals? Or no? How about your friends? Are they afraid of Joseonjo?
Yes. Based on
Your friends are afraid too? Why are you not? Or you're thinking that?
Maybe
It's like GTA.
Jekyll and Hyde. Anyway, so the question is like, how come, why isn't competition producing good benefit? Okay? Why is it producing all these like bad rumors? Okay? Bad rumors, false rumors. Okay? And then yet to ask like, why is this happening? I think one thing that might be happening is that some people complain that like mainstream media, they only try to say good things about Joseonjo, about multicultural families. Okay? So people have to go online to share the bad stories. Okay? So from their point of view, by having this kind of more choices, they can share more stories. Okay? So more stories might be a good thing, but the problem is that what? There's more choices, more stories, more voices, but the bad thing might be what? Yeah, you cannot tell what is true from what is false. Okay? So how can we make the system better? Do you understand? Yes, because right now you have online media, right? You have Irbe, you have Down, Naver. So you have many ways to get information, many ways to get news. And in some way that's a good thing, right? Do you want to go back to 1993 and only get information on social? Why not? Isn't Joseonilbo good enough? You're anti-Joseonilbo? Why you don't like 1993? I was good looking back then. Okay. Yes. Okay, so it's more fun? Explain what you mean by it's more fun. Because you get more stories. I mean, because you can read and listen to more stories. Why is today better than 1993?
There's many perspective on each media.
Okay.
So I can know how do you think about that?
So how do liberals think? How do conservatives think? Okay. How do crazy people think? Okay.
Like how do you think?
So do you actually go to different websites to learn their different perspectives, or do you just choose websites, or do you just choose one?
Several.
Several. And then you go to different websites. Why? To get more like different ideas. So you went to Irbe and you went to the and you sure and you went to the down like Tamuna Panchek cafe. Okay. Okay. Did they give good arguments or were they just crazy?
They have some people say greedy, but some people say very undeveloped. And they said the Tamuna people don't pay the tax, and we pay the money, but the money don't use the people. The government gives the money to the Tamuna people.
So these are good arguments, or at least some interesting arguments. Okay. So the point is that I think most of you or all of you are saying that it's good to have internet, right? That it's good to have all these choices, to get all these different perspectives and ideas. And maybe some of these ideas, such as from that, Tamuna Panchek, you don't hear it from Joseonilbo. Okay? Because maybe Joseonilbo, 한겨레, they just say, "Ooh, Tamuna, we should help them. 너무 불쌍해." Okay? Right. They're too polite, okay? Or too politically correct.
Yes.
Right. Whereas at the down group, they can say all these negative things that you don't hear in the newspapers, right? Oh, by the way, I invited that group to our class on April 29th after the midterm. So you don't have to read. You don't read anyway, but at least, okay? So you can hear their perspectives. They asked me, like, are they going to hit us? I said, no, we're very friendly. Maybe except for Mr. Che, okay? But we're... No, they're more afraid that you're gonna hit them. I'm gonna say no one's gonna hit anybody in my class. Okay, we're just here to understand each other. Okay, that's important, right? Anyway, but going back to competition, I think it's good to have many voices, but according to Osborne and Gabler, you need a system. What is, when you have competition, to have really good competition, you need things like what? You need things like, especially like number 4, you need a non-political body to measure these, to measure the competitors, to rate the competitors. Okay? Because right now, we don't have any way to determine whether the voices are, whether these stories are true or false. Okay? So you have a lot of choices, but they're not really competing with each other. Okay? Well, one way they're not, because, to make competition really work, one, people have to be able to 선택, and 2, they need to get good information. Okay? So 선택 means that, let's say you have these different websites. The better websites should get more users. You understand? And number 2, for the consumers to make a good choice, they need to get more information about these different websites. Which websites are high quality versus low quality. Okay? And so, you understand, right? So right now, like, which newspaper has the most readers? Yeah, Joseon. Do you think they're the highest quality? Do they give out? Do you understand? Do they have the best research, the best, best writers? For the most part, yes or no? Yes. Okay, for the most part, right? So at least among newspapers, competition seems to work, right? So maybe like you said, 한겨레, they're like, we love North Korea, so they lost readers. Okay? Because it's not because readers are conservative, but they're just not persuaded. Okay? Because readers are not stupid, right? You have to persuade them that this is a right news. Okay? So by persuading people, then you can get more readers. And I think the same system works for websites. Okay? But I think it's better to have more transparency. Okay? So it's good to know who's actually writing these articles. Okay? Who's writing that, Chosunjok are stealing my organ. Okay? And so if what that person is saying is false, then other people can criticize, saying this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So if you have to use your real name, then you have to be very careful. You understand? Right. The same thing similar things happen in America, like there's always urban myth. But at least if it's published by like an online newspaper with a real author, if what you're saying is false, then you can be sued. Right? But right now, like you have all these like anonymous people saying all these crazy things, and because they're anonymous, you cannot sue them. Okay? So anyway, so think about how competition can improve performance. Okay? Whether it's media or schools or other areas. Okay? Think. Organs? Sue? Well, not if you need to know the real ID. Well, I think you can. I'm not sure about Korea, but in America, you can only sue if they said something false about you. Right. So if they said Mr. Che stole my baby's organ, then you can sue the person who said it. I don't think you can sue him. Right, I know. I don't think you can sue him, but if there was a real user and you knew his real name, then you can publicize what he said. And then the other people will criticize him. You see? You need to find the best way, ideally, the person who said this will use his real name. Okay? And instead of sleeping. Okay? And by using his real name, it's okay, let him sleep. And by using his real name, then you can publicize his mistake. Yes. Right.
The same thing happened.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
The city.
The whole city? Oh, because they were named. Right. Right.
And the thing is that they were not punished because
okay.
Something did not happen.
I see. Right, so you need a specific entity.
Yes,
right.
But those users were heavily criticized.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think one thing you can do is criticize them, and also the best another thing is you need to respond. Okay, so when you need to post a comment saying you don't have to use your real identity, but just say like I am Chosunjok. This is not true, and when you say this, it hurts me. It hurts my feelings. Okay, because when you say that, that actually has an impact. Because now you know that there are some members of this cafe who are Chosunjok. So if I say anti-Chosunjok things, then I'm gonna actually offend people. Because right now, many cafe users think, oh, everybody here is Korean. They don't know that you are listening in. But once they know that, then people tend to moderate. You understand? It's just like, let's say if our class was all like Korean, or then we say bad things about this guy, right? Okay? But because we know Mr. Chess here, that makes us more what? Yeah, at least more considerate. Right, considerate. That means how would he respond? Okay? Mm-hmm. Okay.
They talk about Chinese drama and the Taiwan drama. They said one of them said why you like the Zhangke look people, and why you Zhangke look. Zhangke means Chinese, and the other said, I don't really like the Chinese. I like the Taiwanese drama. Korean people like they prefer the Taiwanese than the Chinese. Actually.
So one girl said, you like the Chinese drama?
Yeah. And
So what did you say?
I don't say anything, any word, because I want to. If I said, they will don't say what they really think. So I'm quiet and I won't hear what they say about the Chinese drama.
But is it better for people to say what they really want, what they really feel, or is it better for them to know that there's other people listening? You understand? Because they're both reality, right? Because even if you can say whatever you want, if you know that there's Chinese person in class, it makes you think about it. That maybe saying jagye is not so good, right? Even online. So let's say you're anonymous, they're anonymous, so you don't know who you are, right? So they cannot punch you, okay? But just knowing the fact that somebody is listening who's Chosunjo, that does kind of shift the way you think, okay? Whereas if it's like, if you think that it's all Korean, then you compete to say the most negative thing about Chinese, okay? I think they're bad. No, I think they're jagge. No, I think they're chash. No, some kind of worse and worse bad words. I see this among like Korean media when they talk about Japan. Yeah, they always like say the most negative things, right? Right. But that's because they think, there's no Japanese in Korea. You see? Right. Because you're invisible. So you have to be more visible. You might get beat up, but yes, you make sure you protect him. Okay? But the more likely outcome is that if Koreans know that there's Japanese person, especially a Japanese person who actually voted for Shinzo Abe, then there'd be a little bit more considerate what they say about Shinzo Abe. Because right now they're just competing to say the worst things about Shinzo Abe, who's a Japanese prime minister. Okay? So you have to let the people know. So the next class, you can say, Professor, I want to just mention the fact that I'm from China. Then ask the professor to mention that during class. I always mention that during class, right? Because I want you to be considerate, especially that girl behind you. Okay. Yes, it's very shameful. Yes. I know. So when you go to Ilbe, pretend to be a girl. So you're hurting my feelings when you say all these bad things about Korean girls. Okay? So make them more considerate. If you don't lie, then just act for it. Okay? Alright? So that's basically it. So again, think about how can we make competition work for Korea or for, wherever you're from. Okay? Alright, we're basically, thank you.